Hari Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hari Om. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to the 10th session of Tripti Deepa. We will be covering verses 127 to 143 of Tripti Deepa. Nididhyasana is meant to drive the knowledge into the subconscious mind, to let loose of the ahankara and mamakara. We cannot give up Nididhyasana too early. We must keep alert and move in the charted waters of Vedanta to prevent falling back into samsara. We will also begin to touch upon the second line of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Kim Michan Kasya Kamaya. Today's session, we begin with a recap of last week's session by Dr. Rekha. Over to you, Dr. Rekha.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Recapping the verses of the last class, Vidyaranya talks about Nididhyasana as a method of pratibandha nivritti, removal of the third obstacle of viparita bhavana that comes between jnana and the enjoyment of fruit of jnana, which is jnana phala. The first obstacles were pramana and prameya asambhavana, which were dealt with earlier. Next slide, please. In Shloka 103, we learned that due to firm habit practiced in many lives, Bahujanma Dridabhyasa, the notion of the self as a body arises instantly again and again. Also, the notion that the world is real. This is because I have been a samsari for many janmas from Anadi Kala, and every worldly experience invokes ahankara. In Shloka 104, we learned that the samsari erroneous thinking can be removed by single pointedness of the mind. Even before coming to the true knowledge, single pointedness is obtained by worship on a form or an idol, murti dhyana, which is a form of upasana. Since both upasana and nididhyasana are involved in mind control, Vedantic meditation will become effortless if a person has practiced saguna upasana before coming to Vedanta, and such a person is a kritopasana. Next slide, please. In Shloka 106, we learned that Tat Chintanam, we think, Tat Kathanam, we discuss, and we dwell on the teaching, I am free here and now. The Brahma Bhyasa, which is used in this verse, is a type of Nididhyasana. In Shloka 111, two categories of Viparita Bhavana misconception are pointed out. The first is Dehadi Atmatva, feeling that the body, mind, and sense organs are me. And the second is Jagat Satyatva, thinking the world, starting with the body-mind complex, family and possessions, everything else, is absolutely real when it is actually Mithya. They are adhyasa and obstacles to the firmness of my knowledge. Next slide, please. In Shloka 112, we learned that the erroneous conviction is destroyed by meditation on the real entity. A student will therefore meditate first on the self is different from the body, and second on the unreality of the world. In Shloka 113, Vidyaranya enters into an important discussion with the Purva Pakshi question. Should one mentally repeat Aham Brahma Asmi thought, as we do in mantra, japa and saguna upasana? Should this also be done in Nididhyasana? In Shloka 114, we get the answer that asana, time, place, etc. are not important for Nididhyasana because it is drishta phala. It is experienceable removal of habitual wrong notions. On the other hand, rules are important for upasana. For example, the ritualistic offering of food that has to be consumed if one wants punya, and that is adrishta phala. So in Shloka 117, we learned that Dehatma Bhavana causes Drishta Bada, mental disturbances, worry, which are experienceable. Like hunger is also felt here and now, Kshudeva. Kenapyupayena, one can practice either of the two types of Nididhyasana to master, control, or manage Viparita Bhavana, either Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyasana or Brahma Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyasana. Next slide, please. In Shloka 124, we learned that during Nididhyasana, we should try to reduce sport. As Swami Paramarthananda keeps continuing to tell us, the 4 factors involved in Vyavaharika, preoccupation with possessions, obligations, relationships, and all forms of transactions with the external world. In this verse, what is referred to is agriculture, krishi, business, commerce, kavya, which is literature, tarka, mimamsa, etc. So if we get involved in these activities, the mind gets preoccupied, losing the remembrance of the main goal of contemplation. But the study of the Puranas and other such texts will not lead to forgetfulness regarding the truth itself. In Shloka 126, Vidyaranya says that forgetting Vedanta for a moment does not matter if our Nididhyasana is accompanied, as long as we have a conducive lifestyle, which is Tattva Smaraka Vyavahara, activity which keeps us within the fold of Vedantic thinking. So there is less time to commit the aham mama mistake before it gets serious. Our worry increases. Viparyetum kala nasti. To immediately bring back Vedanta, one should discard raga dvesha towards everything. We will continue further with the study of Nididhyasana in the class. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rekha, for giving us a brief and an important message of the recap of the verses we studied in the last class. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Raha Grasaika Karmane Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmiti Purushaha Kimichan Kasya Kamaya Shariram Anusam Jvaret. We have reached an important portion of this verse. We have completed the study of the first line. Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmiti Purushaha. What does the first line mean that we have just completed? This first line deals with Brahma Jnanam, the message of all Vedanta. The first line gives you what is the message of all Vedanta. The message of all Vedanta is all of us should know what is this Atma, our true nature. The word Purusha means all of us. How should we know? Vijaniyat. It is not just Janiyat. It is not just knowing. We should know Vijaniyat. Normally we say, we identify with this body mind and say, I have consciousness. Now we have to reverse this. The reverse is what? I am Asmi. That consciousness because of which I'm able to speak, that consciousness because of which you are able to hear, that universal consciousness, which is that enlivening principle, is the real me, and this body-mind is only an incidental medium for my communication. If this understanding is there, this is what is called Aparoksha Atma Jnanam. I have got Brahma Vidya directly, and this is the essence of the first line. So, Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmiti Purusha. 134 verses have been spent to understand this particular verse. Kimichan Kasya Kamaya is Jnana Phala. That means what is the benefit of knowing all this that we will be seeing in the subsequent classes. Whenever we come to a transition, that means we have finished out of almost 300 verses, we have finished 134 verses. And therefore, we have come to a certain amount of a threshold. And in this threshold, let us see what is that we are supposed to have got. Have we got this teaching? Brahma Vidya is only 3 central words. There is only one truth, and that truth is called Atma or Brahman. That should be into not our normal mind, but into our subconscious mind, that we have to know about Brahma Satyam. This world of that I experience, including my body. Now, this is more important than the first one. All our problems are because we give reality to this world. This message cannot be told to anybody, and it can be told only to students who have been in Vedanta for some time. Even for us who have been in Vedanta for a longer period of time, sometimes it becomes so difficult to say, how can this tangible world, how can my bodily pain, how can my mental anguish be mithya? But that is the truth. That is what the teachers say. And the third line is Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That means the real me, not my body-mind complex, that's consciousness in me, or the real me, is none other than Brahman. That means I have to replace that word Jiva with Aham Brahma Asmi. That means if you have understood the first line, you are able to say with confidence, Aham Brahma Asmi. And that is the significance of the first line. Now, Vidyaranya takes us through this teaching in a very methodical way. And he tells us this understanding that you have got is the 5th stage. You have come to the 5th stage. You have gone through 5 stages already. What are the 5 stages? And this is brought about very nicely in the story of the 10th man example. So many people in the world, there are millions and millions, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, among the thousands of people, don't even know about the existence of Brahman. They are blissfully ignorant about. That is the first stage of Ajnanam. Those who enter into the spiritual world know something about Brahman, but they do not know what this Brahman is. And that is called expressed Brahman ignorance, or stage 2. When Brahma knowledge is not there, when I do not know my true nature, then what do? We identify with our body-mind complex. Not we, all of us are. That is the primal mistake, that we identify with the body-mind complex. When we identify with the body-mind complex, what is the problem? Limitations is the problem. I have limitations in time. I have only this much time. I have limitations in resources, only this much money. Limitations in space. All forms of limitations. All these limitations are because of avidya. And because of avidya comes karma. And because of karma comes karma. And this is the stage of vikshepa, where there is a sense of projection and all the suffering comes in 3rd stage. Then comes the 4th stage, where most of us are in the 4th stage, where a spiritual guru has come into our lives and told us, there is something of the infinite. The infinite Brahman is existent. And this is told to us by the Avantara Vakya. The Upanishads have got verses like Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. And these verses are called the Avantara Vakya. Such knowledge removes what is called Paroksha. Such gives us Paroksha Jnanam. It gives us indirect knowledge. It tells us that Brahman is there. And this process of removing one layer of ignorance, the removal of the ignorance that Brahman exists, is called Sattva Avarana removal. So that is the 4th stage, and I hope this is clear. Our whole jump is from the 4th stage to the 5th stage, if we have understood the first line very clearly. For another 2 months, we will be on this, and we will be pulling each other together. How? Tat chintanam, tat kathanam, anyon tat prabodhanam. Anyon tat prabodhanam means these satsangas are meant for only one purpose. Has everyone in this group who have heard this, have you understood it? If you have not understood, raise your doubts. We will see how each of these doubts can be clarified, and that we advance together. The beautiful stage is Brahma Asti to Brahma Asmi. The teacher now knows the student is ready. And the teacher looks into the eyes and says, Tat Tvam Asi. This is what is called aparoksha jnanam. It is like Karna being told by his mother, you are my Jeshta Putra, you are my son. And this wisdom comes to us through the Mahavakyas. The Mahavakyas removes Bhana Avaranam. What do you mean by Bhana Avaranam? I am conscious. But that consciousness in me, I did not know that was Brahman. So therefore, the teacher now does not give words of information. The teacher gives you words of introduction. Can you feel? Can you see? Okay. That ability to feel, that ability to see is because you are conscious. That awareness entity, that awareness can be defined as I am. I means consciousness, am means existent. This I am has been there all through your life. Now, if you have got this, this is the fifth stage. This is a tremendous amount of jump. And therefore, each one will help the others to cross that river from stage 4 to stage 5. And then what happens is, suddenly, like the 10th man story, Shoka Nivritti, all my sorrow is gone, and there is a sense of fulfillment, and that is what Tripti Deepa is supposed to help us. So we are in this journey of Anyon Tat Prabodhanam, helping each other to discover that I am already that. There is this Purva Pakshi. In one of the future classes, we will bring the Purva Pakshi, because Purva Pakshi asks you very relevant questions to see, is this just vague knowledge or is it very clear? Can you understand? Can you answer all these Purva Pakshi's questions? So our final test of understanding is if you're able to understand all the Purva Pakshi's question. The final test is only this. Are you ready for that? When you are by yourself, when there is no one with you, are you able to feel that sense of Purnatvam? That means I don't need anybody. I don't need any situation. I don't need any object. When I am by myself, I experience Purnamada Purnamidam. I am full and complete just by myself. Now, how do we maintain this understanding? Because when we enter into Vyavahara, when we enter into transactions, when we deal with difficult people in our lives, we tend to forget all these things. These difficult people will suddenly put you into a crash landing. They'll insult you, they will hurt you, they'll make you feel unwanted. And then suddenly all Vedanta has gone for a toss. And therefore, although we have a lot of toxic people in the world around us, there are difficult situations that all of us, based on our prarabdha, have to go through. What we do is we come back to the green room, and that is our Satsanga classes, where through one form of Nididhyasana, that is called Brahma Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyasana. Whenever we are together also with a teacher, we can do Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyasana. That requires some amount of guidance. But otherwise, if I can reflect on this teaching, if I can take one verse of the Gita, Mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. Just reflect on one words of the Gita that you love and keep reflecting on this teaching. And that, if you are able to do it whenever, wherever, whatever you do, is called Brahma Abhyasa Nididhyasana. That is why this is a great verse indeed. Verse number, I think, 106. Tat chintanam, tat katanam, anyun tat prabodhanam, eka deka paratvam cha brahmabhyasa vidur udaha. Once a person has this understanding, then you come to the level what our teacher Swami Anubhavananda says. Then what do you have to do? Now all your karmas are over. Sanchita is over. Agami is over. I have nothing to do. I have nowhere to go. So there is no real will to do anything. And then you do whatever you have to do, like a time pass, whatever your role that you have to do permanent, to do sincerely, but not seriously. we will have the opening class of our satsang today. What I will do is, I will keep this topic open for discussion before Ramaji comes. Ramaji, will you wait for a moment? I will just stop this discussion for a while. I will open it for discussion, and I will ask anybody if you have any questions on what we have shared so far. This is a satsang topic. Maybe 2 minutes, we will take a break. If anybody wants any questions on what I have shared so far.
Can you please explain this Nididhyasana once again, sir?
Sure. All right. Now, there are various forms of Nididhyasana. Why is Nididhyasana important? Now, I have got this teaching, I have got this profound teaching, Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya Jivo Brahmaiva Nabharaha. Somehow, the teacher has given me this teaching through Shravanam. The teacher has also convinced me, I know there is something called Brahman, that Brahman is none other than that consciousness in me, and therefore I am not ordinary, I am extraordinary, and so on. Now, what is my problem is, not only in this life, in my life until my age till now, I have been through so many unpleasant experiences where people have made me feel I am useless, good for nothing, I'm terrible, and so on. Here is a teacher saying you are Brahman, and then you will say, are you talking sense? Not only in this life, I have been through so many lives where I have felt I am a very limited being. Therefore, because of my past conditioning being so much, this is called Viparita Bhavana. Viparita means because of my false notion. This false notion that I am a limited being, suddenly you have graduated from one level and you have come into a very senior position in life. But people still consider you ordinary because they have seen you somebody so ordinary. It happens in families when a child grows up and becomes a doctor. As far as the family is concerned, you're still a little child, but now you have become a doctor. They don't take that person very seriously at all. Now, then what happens? You have been treated small, but then you have to train yourself through various forms. How do you train yourself? Now, it is not just repeating, Aham Brahma Asmi. It is not a japa sadhana. It is going through this teaching. Exactly what we are doing right now. Anyon tad prabodhanam. You ask me a question, I will answer this. Tat chintanam. Reflecting on these teachings. Kat katanam. Whenever you get a chance to speak, anybody, reflect on these teachings. Dola, this is what is called Nididhyasana, and that is the great sadhana that we're doing. Go ahead.
That is Mananam, no, sir?
Mananam is, okay. Mananam is clarifying doubts.
Nididhyasana is contemplation. Right?
So what do you mean by contemplation? See, contemplation means two things. One is when you sit quietly and you, go into a samadhi kind of experience. See, in one of my slides, you will have that. Where is that? Yeah, I'll just show you. Okay. Can you see? I can't see that now. Okay, Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa, if you can call that contemplation, or you go into a kind of a Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. That is also possible. The other is same thing. After some time, you will see these words Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. Once you have got the teaching, you will realize there is only one thing. It is only Shravanam alone. So now the doubts have already been clarified. When the doubts have already been clarified, to internalize what this, you reinforce this by mutual discussion, either with your guru or with your fellow colleagues. It looks similar to Mananam, but once that Mananam chapter is over, but still some more doubts have come, now that we can call it as Nididhyasana.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. My favorite verse from Gita is from chapter 4, verse 24. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. A very popular verse, which is generally sung before having food, and easy to remember too. and where it repeatedly reinforces the concept that Sarvam Brahmamayam. This setting is of a yajna happening, where the offering ladle is made up of Brahman, the oblations is also Brahman, the offering being poured is being poured by Brahman. The person who gives that offering is also Brahman. In the fire of Brahman, and Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. With every time he is offering that, he is smiling inside and remembering himself that that's the only destination for all the activities what is happening. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. Brahman alone is to be reached. By who? By Brahma Karma Samadhina. By that person who has concentration on Brahman as the objective. So here the three levels of Upanishad's teaching is taken into consideration, and it's one of the rare instances in Gita where the complete Vedantic teaching, all the three stages are mentioned together. The first stage is about knowing I am separate from body-mind complex. Me, the consciousness, the conscious being, the consciousness in me is separate and body-mind complex is separate. Again, still there is a Dvaita here. So these are the two entities. Just as electricity and bulb are separate, so identifying yourself with electricity and taking out anatma as the bulb is the first step. The next step of learning is that of everything, every object, every jivatma, every object in this universe, the thread which is underneath is the same consciousness which is there inside you. That is like Sutre Manigana Eva. Like the same Brahman in you is the same consciousness principle in everything you see around, each and every Jivatma. And then the third and the ultimate level of Upanishad teaching is that when you divide these two into consciousness principle, which is common to you and everything else, and that Anatma portion, the Anatma Jivatma is Mithya. Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. So this is the third ultimate stage of Upanishad's teaching, which is in that conversation and the setting where Arjuna will be teaching, taught by Krishna. Only occasionally Sri Krishna gets into this third level of teaching, and this is one of that instances where Krishna teaches the ultimate Upanishadic level, where he negates the Anatma. Everything is Brahman. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi. Brahmagno Brahmanahutam. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma Karma Samadhina is the Gruhastha, like you, all of us. He is not like some Gnani who is in Himalayas. He is the person, like a person who is going to Delhi by train. He gets down in between stops and do all the transactions, buys coffee or something, buys newspaper, gives money, takes back the appropriate change and gets back to the train, because at every moment he has that thing of his destination that he has to go to Delhi. His ultimate destination is there in his mind. He is concentrated, he's focused on this ultimate destination. That destination is Brahma Karma Samadhina. That's the person who is hooked to that Brahman always. And for him, everything is Brahman. Whatever you do, like we see in the next slide, we see wherever you see, like this man who is pouring, making tea in Varanasi Ghat. So whenever he takes out a portion, he is taking Brahman and he is pouring back into Brahman. He is feeding Brahman. The people who are buying are also Brahman. The Ganga there is also Brahman. So like that, everything is the thread underneath everything is Brahman. So it's a kind of Nididhyasana verse which makes me like how you whistle in a bathroom when you are alone, enjoying of the ultimate song which takes you to your innermost self. This is that kind of Nididhyasana mantra which takes me to that ultimate truth. And that's a joy, an eruption of joy which happens whenever I go through this and hum inside me often. That's my favorite verse. Thank you very much.
Ramaji, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vidyaranya continues to discuss the topic of Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is assimilation of the knowledge of the Absolute. It is meant for Viparita Bhavana Nivrittihi or Dehatma Vasana Nivrittihi. That is, Ajnana does not create problem, but Adhyasa creates a lot of problem. Vidyaranya says, Tattva Smaraka Vyavaharas are conducive for Ajnana. They are those activities which will keep the seeker within the fold of vedantic thinking that is harmless. Be it Brahmabhyasam as repeated Chintanam, Kathanam, Prabodhanam. Advaita Nivrutti will matter much. It is Advaita projection or Viparita Bhavana that is taken as real is the real issue. The mind continues to have powerful ahankara and mamakara due to the deep-rooted habits of vasana. The inner mind continues to have powerful ahankara and mamakara due to the deep-rooted habits or vasanas. Nourishing these makes anatma more and more real, promoting raga and dvesha. Therefore, the seeker should reduce those dvaita activities which highlight jiva ishvara bheda. Exported activities like Dvaita Shastra Adhyanam or Krushi Vanija is not conducive for single-pointed focus on the Absolute because of distractions caused by them. In the verse 126, he indicates that Brahmatma Bhavana Nivrittihi is erroneous conviction about the Absolute. This is being forgotten, is not harmful, but there is a calamity when this is replaced by projection of Dehatma Vasana taken as real, which generates samsara. Then Purapakshi questions, is it not possible to strike a balance between Nididhyasanam and worldly life? Then Swami Vidyaranya answers this in the Shloka 127. It is, Tattva Spruter Avasaro Nasti Nyabhyasashalinaha Pratyuta Abhyasa Ghatitva Talat Tattvam Upekshate. Swami Vidyaranya again cautions seekers that one cannot pursue both Nididhyasanam and worldly life simultaneously. It is like placing the legs in two boats going in the opposite direction. Reducing Nididhyasanam and involving only in worldly life with port strengthens the false notion of kartrutva and bhoktrutva. Port is possession, obligation, relationship, and transactions. The strong base of karma yoga dilutes ahankara and mamakara vyavaharas and makes jnana yoga easier. However, until one is wholly intent to pursue the Absolute, may study various shastras and also enjoy worldly life. But the one who desires nothing but the Absolute withdraws from the world. And it is common to prioritize worldly transactions over the spiritual practices. In the verse 128, Swami Vidyaranya remains the Shruti Vakyas in support of his contention. Mundaka Upanishad, mantra 2.2.5 says, Anya Vacho Vimunchatha. May you drop the obsession with all other vain talks. This rejection must be total and absolute. Anya Vachaha, here it refers to distractive talks which deal with anatma and dvaitam with dharma, artha, kama as its goal. Also, he refers to Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad Vakyam, Vacho Viglapanam Tata. Too many words will certainly strain the organ of speech. These arguments only lead to loss of temper, frustration, and cause criticism and ridicule. Therefore, the seeker is unable to focus absolute. Swami Vidyaranya had mastered Purvapakshi mind and convincingly answered potential question in the verse 129. Now Purvapakshi insists that even Dvaita activities like eating or bathing can also cause distraction. For this, Swami Vidyaranya said, segregate all vyavaharas into two as avoidable and unavoidable. studying advanced shastras are not required for survival. But the minimum vyavaharas like aharadi are unavoidable ones. Contemplation on the absolute can be done only if we have a healthy body. Without food, the body cannot even survive, and so eating should not be given up. A short period of not focusing on the absolute during the activities like eating and others does not cause any distraction for Brahmabhyasa. Now, Purva Pakshi for questions as seen in the verse 130, which says, Janakadehe katham rajyam iti chet drudha bodhataha tatha tavapi chet tarkam patha yadva krushim kuru. The translation is seen in the slide. Now, Swami Vidyaranya agrees with Purva Pakshi's condition. The kings like Janaka and Ajatashatru were involved very much in the Dvaita Vyavaharas. As a king, they had all the luxuries, sense pleasures, and also ruled the country effectively. These are all powerful Dvaita Vyavaharas, no doubt. It is because of their firm knowledge of the absolute, they could perform Dvaita Vyavaharas also. So if you can abide in the firm knowledge of the absolute, you can also manage Dvaita Vyavaharas. But remember, Advaita Nivrutti will not. For an ignorant, total dedication to the absolute and worldly transactions cannot go hand in hand, says Swami Vidyaranya. For a seeker, a period of undivided attention to the absolute is absolutely necessary. The fencing of Shravanam and Mananam is required to protect being carried away by Ahankara and Mamakara. Through Nididhyasana, those body and nothing belongs to me. Everything is an appearance in the absolute. They abide in this truth always and conducted their duties just to exhaust prarabdha karmas. Janaka did not forget this even in the worst crisis. They served the mankind out of compassion. Finally, I would like to share an incident from Srimad Ramayanam. When the king Janaka first met Sri Ramachandra, Janaka told Vishwamitra Rishi, my mind never leaves the absolute even for a moment. The fact that my mind is set on Sri Rama implies that he is the absolute. We should note that firmly rooted in absolute, Swami Vidyaranya served as the chief minister in the court of Harihara and Bukka. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for a nice explanation of these verses, including the Purva Pakshi's questions. Now, this is an answer to the topic of Nididhyasana, which was asked earlier. Any questions from the group to clarify these verses? The warning given to all of us is, if you are in the spiritual path, gradually reduce all possessions, obligations, relations, and transactions, because as Ramaji said, you cannot have your legs on two different boats. So once we realize that we are here to discover something higher, and we also know that the world is not as real as the true nature of ourselves, and our whole life is, we finished with Dharma, Artha, Kama, now we are into the pursuit of Parama Purushartha. So if this is possible, so whatever is possible in our life, we don't have to be sannyasis, but mentally sannyasis, and therefore, if spiritual knowledge is very strong, we can be like Janaka and others. That means you may have all the responsibilities, but if your knowledge becomes firm, then it is possible to be involved, but these are exceptions. For all of us, we need to work on both. So,
Sir?
I'm still open to any questions, please.
Sir, isn't it important for us to have a sort of a deep understanding and also perseverance?
Very true, madam. We need to have a deep understanding and perseverance.
Because if our understanding or perseverance is superficial, I don't think that we are really going to get anywhere very fast.
That's true. That's true. So that is why this is not a pastime. So
Yes.
it is a full-time preoccupation. Now, if it has to be a full-time preoccupation, then gradually we have to work on both. That is why it depends upon our age group. Now, those of us who are approaching 50 or below beyond 50, and if your prarabdha is favorable in the sense that your responsibilities to your family are reasonably over, then instead of watching maybe TV serials or other pleasantries which normally engulf our lives, gradually give more and more and more and more and more time into the pursuit of this. And this can be done in various forms of satsang. Unfortunately, the age of information, the YouTube is so rich with so many teachers available for us. It has to become a full-time preoccupation. That is the meaning of tat chintanam tat kathunam. Thank you for your question, Madam. Shall we proceed? Our next speaker is Dr. Ahalya, but Dr. Ahalya is not available today. So I will tell you about this particular verse. And what is this verse trying to say? This is verse number 131. And in this verse, Mithyatva Vasana Dhardya. Now, the fact that the world is not so real. Now, there is no English translation for the word mithya. The word mithya does not mean it's unreal. It is wrong to say the world is unreal. The world is of a lower order of reality. Now, what is the best way to give an example? These are examples. Now, if you see a pot, and if you see a pot and you call it a pot, you have one level of reality, it is a pot. But if you see a pot and you are able to see the clay has been there even before it became a pot, and the clay will be there even after that. Therefore, if a person is spiritually wise, when you see a golden ornament, you're not going to see the ornament, you're able to see the gold. That is the meaning of the word mithyatvam. That means when you see the world, you have to train to see existence. When you see other beings like plants and animals, you see the consciousness in the world. And when you see yourself, you have to see Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Ananda is the joy, and Anantatvam. And this is the conviction that has to come, Nityatva Vasana Dhardya. And once that is done, then what happens? The moment you are able to see this world is no more so real, you have moved out of that punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam instantly. Instantly, in that instance, the sanchita karma, the agami karma is gone. But then what happens? Your prarabdha karma continues to be there. And this is useful because if your prarabdha karma if the karmas were to cease, then a person would die instantly. Can you imagine a state when a person becomes realized and he drops dead? Now you can be realized, but you continue to live as long as the prarabdha. Then what happens? Prarabdha kshaya kankshaya. And then how do you do the rest of your job? The rest of your life is whatever you have been doing before. A Zen master was asked, how was it before enlightenment and after enlightenment? He says, before enlightenment, I used to, draw water from the well. I used to, chop wood and draw water from the well. What do you do now? Now also I chop wood and draw water from the well. Is it to ordinary people, it'll look, what is the difference? But now that is the difference. Initially, you would chop wood and draw water from the well for a certain purpose, either to earn a living or for something. Now it is just time pass. I have to time pass. Swaswa karma anusarataha. So this is the meaning of the word. And the fact that the world is an illusion has become a conviction. Jagan Mithya has become clear. Then what do? You just have to let your prarabdha manifest without undergoing any suffering. And whatever actions that you have to do, I have so many roles to play. How do you play those roles? Play those roles sincerely, but not seriously. We come to verse 134. Now, 134 is the most beautiful example that I can say that we have to take from Tripti Deepa. And let this picture be there in your mind. Marge Gantro Dvayo Shranto. Now, along a parikrama path, we are going on a certain parikrama in a mountainous path. Grantaha, that means there are two travelers, Dvaya, two of them. Shranto, both of them are exhausted. Samayam api aduratam, both of them are equidistant from the goal. So there are two of us. One of them is Janan. And who is the Janan? When we have come to 133 verses and we are at the 134th verse, and if you have really studied these verses, call yourself as Janan. Janan means Brahma Satyam, Jagan Nitya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha has become very clear to me. One of the two travelers is a Janan. And what does this Janan know? Janan knows that the goal is right around the bend. He knows it is nearby. Then how does he go? How does he proceed? Dhairyat Dhrutam Gachet. With great zeal, he walks very fast because now he knows he is Janan. The other person who does not know it, but he's also like all of us struggling in the path. Anyaha, the other person, Tishtati, he stops there. Dina Dihi, feeling absolutely helpless. Now, this is a great verse. What does it mean? All of us are going through our prarabdha. But those of us who are spiritually awakened through Tripti Deepa and through all the sadhana that we have, and if you have become awakened and you are now a Janan, what do you know? I have to live through my prarabdha, that is all. And my prarabdha may be anything. It is going to be difficult, but I will do it with great amount of zeal. I'm not going to suffer the prarabdha now because I know there is no punarapi jananam for me. I have reached my goal. Now, this is the great significance of this verse about the wise and the otherwise. I will repeat, two travelers having the same goal. Both of them are exhausted. One walks enthusiastically ahead as he knows his destination is around the corner. The other laments and gives up. Now, Tripti Deepa is for the person who is Janan, who is awakened. At this stage, what do we realize? My spiritual journey is over. There is nothing more to do. There is nowhere to go. Swamiji again and again and again emphasizes this one thing. This has to be my clear understanding. And other than clear understanding, nothing more is really required. I'll stop here for a few minutes for any discussion on these two very important verses. You will see this is the climax of the line 1. We have reached the highest climax of spiritual understanding in this beautiful example. Now, I'm open to any thoughts that you may have to say on this. We have another 1 minute. Dr. Komal, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll just wait for another few seconds on this beautiful verse of the spiritual journey that all of us are certainly reaching our destination. We know our destination is near, and therefore let us not get cowed down by the difficulties that we go in our life. And let us be nothing like devotion. Bring in devotion. Although we are in the path of Jnanam, now this is the time also for Danyaha Kritakrityosmi. Let us be grateful to our own prarabdha that has brought us till here, and grateful to existence or God. Dr. Komal, please.
That word enthusiastically used is very important. You can't be miserable about your prarabdha because this is, time pass, like Swamiji says. It's important we do it enthusiastically, or don't make a fuss when pain and suffering comes. So that's
Very
you
nice
know
job.
that you're one
Good.
of them who knows you're already there. So you enjoying.
Yeah.
Very good choice of a word, Neeta. When you use the word enthusiastically, you know what is the word meaning of the word enthusiasm? En means within, Theo means God. When you have discovered God within, then how do you manifest? Your whole life will be enthusiastically. So that is why when there is Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Aham Brahma Asmi is there, then what will you do? You will wake up in the morning with that spring in your life and do whatever your prarabdha has for that life. From now on, I don't have any specific agenda. I'm open to the agenda of existence. Of course, in my prarabdha, there will be certain things to do. I chop wood, I draw water from the well. How do I do it? I chop wood. I have no other objective, but I do whatever I have to do. That is why Swamiji says, you know, those Maha Mantras of Swami Anubhavananda, wherever you are, whatever you are, whenever you are, can you be 100%? This is how a jnani works on.
Is it the same like consciously wasting time as you speak sometimes?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, from now on, you don't worry about wasting time, but now you are conscious. You are 100%, and you are conscious of that moment. It is not a waste of time. You are really living for the first time when you consciously afford to. Others may call it waste time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Vinayakan. Dr. Komal, please.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. To continue the discussion, I don't see any other way other than being enthusiastic when you realize. So being miserable is not an option, and that word does not exist beyond that. So as sir said, it is having the God within. And it becomes a kind of default mode, and there's no other way, which does not exist for a Krutakutyascha. So as we see here in the next verse, here there's a sudden jump. Vidyaranya Muni begins deliberations and explanations about the second line of our Bija mantra of Trupti Deepa. Atmanam chet vijaniyat ayam asmiti purushaha kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusanjaret. So this is the Brihadaranyaka mantra which is being discussed, and the first line takes us up to the fifth stage of the spiritual progression. We saw this ajnana, avritti, vikshepa, paroksha jnana, aparoksha jnana. The first line deals with the aparoksha jnana here again in this verse, and this is the start of explanations and details of the second line of the Brihadaranyaka mantra, and it goes from here up to shloka 200. And in that up to shloka 190 odd, it's only about that kimicham, the first part. For what? Desiring what? So that's the query which is dealt with up to that verse 190 from here. So in that introductory verse goes like this, verse 135. Sakshat Krutatmadhi Samyag Aviparyaya Badhita Kimichan Kasya Kamaya Shariram Anusamjaret. For he who has properly realized Brahman is fulfilled and is not troubled by any erroneous notions. And to desiring what and to please whom will he suffer the afflictions of the body? If he suffers any such afflictions of the body, it's just out of his own will, and just as a part of the game, and not as a kind of suffering which he has been imposed on. In the next verse, in the same slide, I want to explain about the background what we have. So it's like imagining that our Sankrantis, Sakreachu, the dolls, of various kinds. It can be a tree, mango tree, a bird, cow, a human form. So these are all the various Sakre molds we do, the sugar dolls we do during Sankranti. Similarly, for a person who has realized the entire universe around is made up of Brahman, The essential ingredient is Brahman. Essential ingredient of himself is also Brahman. And imagine in such a world, in such a universe, a sugar doll desiring to eat a sugar candy, how foolish it looks. In a similar way, like when everything is Brahman, so what is there to desire further? What's there? You are the same as everything around. You have reached that melting point, and the whole thing is a homogeneous one whole. And what is desire in such a situation? Desire actually requires a triputi, like we see in this diagram. A desiring subject should be there, desiring object should be there, and that's when the desire appears. Only when there's a person who identifies himself out of this unity, only then a desire appears. If I am separate from something else, that desire appears, that thought appears. If you are a part of the whole and you are the whole, then what is there to desire? That we see again in the next verse. Shloka 136 goes like this. Jagam mithyatva bhavat akshipto kamya kamukau tayor abhave santapa shyamyed nisneha deepavat. So what's due to the conviction of the unreality of the world, the objects of desire and the desirer are falsified. It collapses. In the absence of both of these, suffering ceases, like a lamp without the oil. Like how oil is required and the flame is required for the lamp to glow, the objects of desire and the desirer are required for the desire to happen. When these two are not there, like a lamp which has exhausted its oil or which does not have any oil at all, the desire just vanishes. Okay. So these three, the triputi is something in physics it comes where they mention about collapse of wave function. When there is an observer, only then that it appears, the triputi appears only when somebody observes it. And there's nobody to observe, it just collapses into one whole homogeneous thing. So this is about the second verse here. And beyond this, it's a state of you have krutya krutyascha, you have reached wherever you wanted to. Like you go to an airport and first thing you do on the way, oh, I have not done web check-in. I will do web check-in, and you do web check-in by the time you reach, and then it's just time. And then what you do, your baggage, you push all the baggage into, and then you go to security check. Okay, time it's only 45 minutes. I'll get into security check, and you have nothing on yourself. Everything is given, and you're totally free. And you go there and you receive a message telling your flight is delayed by 2 hours. So then what to do in that 2 hours? You have left your book inside, you have left everything there, your phone battery is almost going, you still have 2 hours. Other than observing the people around and just enjoying in that state, you have nothing else to do till your flight arrives. So it will be in that state. What do you desire? There's nothing, not even shops there beyond. Only you need to be seated there and pass time. Nothing to do, nowhere to go till your flight arrives. So we are in that stage. That's the shoka nivritti. When your phone battery is dead, what do you want to do? There's no shoka at all. So this is about the second verse. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Komal. We'll leave this topic. 2 nice verses, nicely explained with nice examples, open for discussion. We are entering the second part. That means kimichan kasya kamaya.
Good evening, sir.
Dr. Avishankar, please go ahead.
My understanding of Triputi has changed over quite some time. Initial days of you had very clearly brought out to me quite a few years ago, and after that it has changed. The initial thought was I do meditation on an object and I am the meditator and there is a meditation happening. That was Triputi. Over a period of time, that is definitely moved out and we link ourselves to something higher, and neither am I the meditator and there's nothing to meditate on. So there is the meditation aspect has changed towards the Vedantic meditation. And that's a huge difference from being in contact with you and your classes, sir. This topic which Dr. Komal brought out was simply wonderful, because when there is no observer, then the happening of Tripuri doesn't happen. And in physics, probably this is the same example of the Schrodinger's cat, where we don't know whether the cat was alive or dead in a cage with a nuclear atomic fission happening. We only know it when there is an observer. As long as the observer is not there, we don't know whether the cat is dead or alive. And exactly the same way, if we are anchored to something higher, then neither am I the meditator, nor am I doing any meditation. Obviously, when there's no meditation, there's no desire. This is a great verse and beautifully brought out. Respects.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your nice sharing, Dr. Ravi Shankar. Open for any other questions. Just say that. Go ahead, Vinayakan.
Is it the same like triangular format to binary format, this thing, or it's different?
Yeah, could be. See, all these triputis are there in the triangular format only. Because in the binary format, all the three have disappeared.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you.
So it is, in a way, you can call it triangular format. This is the triangular format, and the triangular format is anatma. And in Paramarthika, that is why, can you see the opening word? Sakshat Kritatma Dihi. Sakshat. One who's got Sakshat Para. One who's Dihi. One whose understanding has come to a total fulfillment. For such a person, baditaha, there is no form of obstruction by samyak viparyaya. Viparyaya means all forms of wrong notions have gone away. Why? He is atmaneva atmana tushta. What are the wrong notions? Why desire comes? Now they're all mithya. You will not run after a fake currency. If somebody is giving you pots of fake currency, are you going to go after it? So this whole world is mithya. I don't need to produce that kind of energy. Also, we know the poison in it. Don't take it as real poison, but it is dukkha mishritva atripti karatvam bandhakartvam. In today's class itself, we read about that person who is very hungry and he has some food, but it is admixed with poison. But a spiritually evolved person, a person who's gone from the triangular format to the binary format, is in a state of atma neva atmana tushtaha. Will such a person ever look at that poisoned food? That is not going to happen. So from now on, we are going to analyze that triputi, which is exactly shown in this triangle. Kim Icchan, what is that object of desire? Asya kamaya, who is the desirer? And, and we will see the nature of desire, because desire is the cause of all our suffering. So then, why do we have to struggle with the body? So it is a great journey ahead that we have for another 1.5 months that we are working on Tripdeepa. I'm so happy that so many of you I have got a feedback from some people that I'm listening to all these classes, but I'm lost. I'm in a way lost. So thank you for that feedback. I know this is a difficult topic. What has helped some of us to understand more clearly is repeated listening to two Swamijis, Swami Paramarthananda. The same word, when you hear his audios, my God, you see a deeper understanding. Then there is Swami Tadatmananda. He is another brilliant realized master. Swami Anubhavananda has also spoken, and these talks are available in Hindi. It is available on YouTube. So, any more feedback? Dr. Komal will answer.
Can I answer? Can you please elaborate on Krita Kritya?
Krita Krityascha.
Yeah.
Kritakrityascha means that complete fulfillment when there is nothing else to be done. You are fully done away with. I mean, in other words, it's like as Sir was telling about losing. I am lost. It's a state of complete loss where you lose yourself. You will dissolve yourself in Brahman, and you don't exist as a separate entity. Then that's the ultimate fulfillment. That's the Brahmananda. There's no Vishayananda there. We are not just enjoying the rhythm or the shlokas or how we presented or the beautiful pictures here. Those are all Vishayananda. So in the Brahmananda, it's the complete fulfillment. Like when a hungry person has his full and he does not want anything else. But because of his prarabdha, he will again, because he has finished his dessert too early, so he will go grab something, maybe a glass of water or some little bit of dessert, and again sit with the friends because he still has another half an hour to go, and others are still having their full and they are still hungry. Kritakrityascha, he is full, but just to be there, he has to have something till the show winds off. That's Kritakrityascha.
15th chapter, last verse, Kritakrityascha Bharat.
Yeah.
What is to be done is already done.
Yeah, there's only one thing to be done, and that is done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just imagine that state when your to-do list is over. There is nothing to be done. See, you have to see this as possibilities, that it is possible for me to be there. Any more, Sukanya?
That's all, sir. I had seen Swamiji's explanation for that Kritakritya, but I forgot for a minute what his explanation was. Very beautiful explanation for that.
Dr. Komal, anything else you want to say?
What other thing we had was about the Nididhyasana. I was thinking an analogy. It's like Shravana is like learning 12 ones are 12, 12 twos are 24, 12 threes are 36 is Shravana. And Manana will be to understand why it actually happened that way. So put two 12s together, it becomes 24. When you're in Nididhyasana, you'll be in the real world, you'll be doing your transactions. And if you have 12 notes of 500 each and another 12 notes, you know how many total notes you have. So without even calculating, you will know. And 12 ones are 12, or that why it is 24 is not important at that stage. In your every action, it is percolated into, and it comes as like you don't even know that you know that. And that's the state of Nididhyasana. If you want to, you can just sing it like a rhyme. 12 ones are 12, 12 are 24, but it's not necessary. As long as you're using it in your day-to-day life whenever it is required.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Jai Gurudev. Trupti Deepa is a lamp of contentment. Jnani has fulfillment in himself. Therefore, he does not require for anything to give him security, peace, and happiness. We all are trying for security, peace, and happiness. And the two difference in all four shlokas is how wise man looks at it and how normal man looks at it. What people expect from sense object that he already has discovered within himself, that is wise man. And this is why Krishna said, Atmaneva eva atmana tushta. And this is the theme for all four shlokas. Next slide, sir. Kim Ichan. Ichan word is there in all the languages. It means desires. It literally means what desire Jnani have. This is a question mark. But this is not question, but assertive answer. Kim Ichan. It means Jnani does not have any desires at all towards worldly objects and persons. Ichha Nirodha and Ichha Nisha or Kama Nisha is the benefit. And as it is said in Sthita Prajna portion, is Prajahati Sada Kaman Partha Manogate. Kama Prahara is the phala. Kama Prahara word means you really do Prahara. So Kama will go boom, like no Kama. That is the phala you get because of this. Next slide, sir. Jnani has three things. This is the one that he has self-fulfillment. He's satisfied. He's realized. And second one is Jagata Mithya Darshana. Jagata means all whatever he sees in Jagat is, he knows it is Mithya. That he's already understood. That's how only he becomes fulfilled. That he has practiced sadhana even after getting jnana. Now, third one is his discipline is dosha darshana. And this, through Viveka, he practices dosha darshana and develop vairagya. And Vidyaranya says that habit of dosha darshana continues even after jnana yoga and does not give up. Therefore, he looks at dosha and was prescribed in shloka 139 and 140. 139 and 140, wealth and beauty. So how do you look at the wealth? How wise man looks at the health. And wealth is the every from morning till night, we need wealth for everything. So Vidyaranya has told, who held our hand and told, Aham Brahma Asmi, but how do you practically achieve? Every day, unless you deal with this moha of wealth and beauty, you know how to deal with it, then only you will, it will help you to self-realize. Next slide. 139. Arthan Arjane Klesha Swane Bhaivat Paripalane Nashe Dukkham Yaye Dukkham Dig Arthan Klesha Karina. Now, next slide. So there is a difficulty. There is a difficulty in earning money, and that's why it is maintaining money also is difficult. So once somebody has earned money, that is arjane, artha is money and arjane is earning. So you have all the possessions like money you keep, you build palaces, you build property and possession. Now you have to maintain it. Maintain is called paripaharani or rakshana. You want to maintain it, you want to keep it. So next step after maintaining, what do? You want to spend it. What? You go to casino and spend and lose all the money. What happens? Money nasha. So it is called nasha dukkha. After spending the money, you feel sad, losing the money. The next other step is vyaya dukkha, spending the money. Here, the person is very miser. He doesn't want to spend money. Even his own bank loan, he doesn't want to return. He's very sad. So wealth with pleasures come trouble and distress. All stages, earning, maintaining, spending, and anyway, whatever, if it goes away also, every time you feel sad. Next slide, sir. In left side, this thing that Vivek Chudamani and Bhagavad Gita, it has been explained how the wealth, calamities of the wealth, and you can read yourself. Next slide, sir. Slide 140. Here, Masa Pancha Janna Lole Japanjare Snaya Asti Granti Shalinya Striya Kam Shobhavan. What is really beautiful about woman, who is but a mass of flesh endowed with muscle, bone, and joints, and that are cased in assembly of restless limbs. The attraction between man and woman is very, very powerful, and each becomes other's weakness and the cause of stress and shun. This is very, very difficult to stop attraction between man and woman. But if you think that this is only skin deep, it is okay. Why is this attraction so powerful? Because all five kamendriyas, all five sense, this thing are involved in it at that time. That's why it is very, very powerful. The truth behind glamour realizes that beauty is only skin deep. You have to think in the picture like that. It is skin, and under the skin, it is the same for everyone. So there is no beauty at all. The body is made of flesh, bone, and blood, packaged attractively by skin. Its limbs, like robot, move about, creating sound and movement, which seems to be sweet and graceful. It is like a factory that takes up food and brings out waste. Knowing thus, the wise man are immune to the sexual attraction as they are to pleasures.
Thank you, Dr. Madam. Thank you, Dr. Asha Naik, for a nice explanation of these two verses where Vidyaranya is trying to say, what are the two important areas where people lose control? And one is Kanchana or wealth, and the other is Kamini. So this verse very nicely has been brought out that what is the artham anartham? What is the problem of wealth? There is a problem in earning. There is a problem in preserving your wealth. Whether you like it or not, there is a possibility of losing the wealth. And then even if you spend, you feel sorrowful. And the other problem is about Kamini. We have two more verses for Dr. Asha Naik. Dr. Asha Naik, please.
Verse 142. Shrutiya pida manopi navisham hitamichati mishtandvastutra jananya moodasta jik tatsati. So here what it is told as that the person with hungry can eat poison, doesn't eat poison. So how can you think that a person who has eaten sweets and full, he will eat such a thing? This is compared between the normal man and the wise man. Wise man cannot eat, which is poison. So normal man doesn't eat. So both of them, they don't eat. The wise man, knowing the defects of worldly objects, does not entertain or desire them. Example, children with nut allergy refuse to eat anything with nut, even if it looks very tempting and very attractive, because they have experienced its severe ill effects. Here, poison is compared with all vishayas, and the wise man experiences bliss within. So how can worldly pleasures with all these defects will attract him? Next slide, sir. Sloka 132. Prarabdha karma prabalyat bhogeshu vicha bhavate yadi klishan ivattadapi esham bhunte vishti griva tatvat. Vidyaranya takes small deviation here. The Upanishad and scriptures clearly say that Jnani does not have any desires, but as a result of strength of prarabdha, he will have some desire. Wise may have desires for worldly objects, and even then he experiences the objective enjoyment as if he is dealing with illusory ghosts. That means without attachment and seriousness. There are two types of suffering. One is ignorant man suffers because he does not get what he wants, anything, money, eating, anything like that. But whereas man of wisdom suffers because he really does not want the object, but feels obliged to enjoy, like man getting too much of food after getting full meal. So conclusion of this, now we are already first two beauty and wealth, and third two slokas he's told about food, which is food is very, very important in everyday's life. So conclusion is what? The object only appear to give happiness, but are actually the abode of sorrow and dukkham. These objects give fleeting joy, but leave long-lasting attachment, craving, and bondage. The objects themselves are impermanent. How can they give lasting joy? They cannot give. The beauty and joy seen objects are superimposed by him when we deeply lose charm and hold. Only when we get desires objects that we realize that it was not what we wanted in first place, or it was not what we thought or it to be. That would not give you joy, and we expect from it. It is fanciful and we go for it. So what do we learn? We learn two things. We should not get attached to wealth, beauty, and food. What it says that comes through this superimposing goodness, beauty, joy, and seeing virtues, which may or may not be present in that object. That's how we get attached. So how do we get detached? Detached come through the seeing the definite defective side, like we have seen about the wealth, about the beauty, defective side, alluring objects, pratibandha bhavana, and dosha drishti. So everything when it gives pleasure, you have to have dosha drishti and see other side of it. And then naturally you will get detached and you will try to become a wise man. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asha Naik, for a very nice analysis, a deep understanding of another two more important verses. Now, on the surface, when you look at all these verses, which condemns desire. A student may be a little confused. Why is the teacher punishing desire so much? Is desire wrong? Now remember, we are all mature students and students of Vedanta who have seen to some extent the futility of the world, and to some extent we are still caught up with all these objects. Now what the teacher and the entire Tripti Deepa is going to tell us, not that we should not have desires, but do not have binding desires. Have desires, but remember, any desire is mixed with sorrow. It is dukkha mishritam. It cannot give total fulfillment. It creates bondage. It can create punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. That cycle is going to be perpetuated by any form of binding desires. The other problem is that when we learn Vedanta, we realize whatever I see and experience is not so real. It is mithya. And am I going to invest so much on a product that is not real? So therefore, how does a wise person see? A wise person will see this world, and there is a very beautiful example given here. Now, a hungry person, imagine there is a very person who is afflicted with hunger. Shudaya pidamanaya. That means who is afflicted by hunger. Now, he is kept food in front of him, but now he is told, although this looks very desirable food, it is admixed with a very bad poison. Now, the moment you know that poison, Dr. Ashanna gave the example of children who want to eat food, but they know there is a possibility of there may be nuts and this child has got nut allergy. However attractive that dessert or that food, the child will not touch it because we know the adverse effects. Now, our teachers are trying to show that binding desire can have a poisonous effect. And let us know that these are all mithyatvam. On the other hand, a person who is Atman Evatmana Tushta, who is full of spiritual wisdom. Now, for a person who's had a full meal, and then you offer a food that is admixed with poison, will a person ever touch it? Not possible. That is where Tripti Deepa will help us to navigate in and through the world of desires and not be afflicted by it. Now, there is another verse 143, which is a jnani, that means a spiritually evolved person, is now exposed to a lot of luxury, a lot of good food, maybe international travel. Now, he is already full. And for such a person, his prarabdha is such that he is given something of great luxury. Now, will he say no? He does not really desire it. Sometimes it happens, when you have everything in the world and still it is offered to you. Now, at the same time, will you say no? You will say yes. But then he will experience that whatever joy that is given to him as per his prarabdha, but he knows that he has to go through it. He is not going through with reluctance. The word used there is reluctance. It is not a very correct word. He will perhaps tolerate it or he will experience it, but he is not going to feel, I want this. These are very beautiful verses, and I hope we can have some discussion on these verses over a period of time.
One who is established firmly in Atmanyanam is comfortable in Dvaita Vyavahara and will accept his prarabdha sincerely. A jnani will always lead a dharmic life because that has become his vasana. He is objective to his ahankara. The ahankara is mithya, hence his reactions will come down. Next week, we will go deeper into inquiring if the jnani has any desires left. If not, then what drives him to go about his day. Thank you, Dr. Hegde, and to the esteemed team of speakers. Our salutations to Vidyaranya Swami. We meet, the next session will be on, the premiere will be on 18 September. This satsang recording will be tomorrow at 6:45. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.